All right. So hi, my name is Melissa Dagney. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the second session in a 6-session series on how to build your course as we move to Canvas. And last week I talked about the overall process of the steps we would be going through and just gave that big picture. Today is a very specific organization and settings. It's one of the sessions with, I believe, is the most things to talk about. So it's kind of a lot, but it's just a lot of little things that add up. Whereas some of the other sessions are just less stuff, but maybe more in-depth choices. So it's a balance and it all adds up in the end. So I asked everybody to poll on how you were thinking about proceeding to build your course. Most everyone, half has said empty sandbox or academic course shell, and then half are planning to copy parts of Blackboard. So I'm going to show you exactly how to get started doing that today. I would like to say I'm sharing my screen, and I've got some things pulled up on the left that I'd like to remind you. This Canvas webpage that's here, again, lots of questions and people looking for additional trainings. You're going to find that information here. I also have created an additional asynchronous resource. So I'm going to open that up real quick and show you full screen. I sent the link in an update to the invite to the trainings. The School of Osteopathic Medicine had asked that I send it to them that way. So I just thought, well, maybe everybody likes that. But I know we all have our various ways. So the follow-up email to today's session will also include the link. And you can come here and basically find some of this information I've been talking about. So I'm going to skip past this resources page, which is stuff everybody's probably already familiar with, but it's just reminders on where you can go to get help. And I'm going to look at this course build overview, which was last week's session. And as you scroll down, it starts with the basic walkthrough of Canvas and getting your bearings, all the way down to all the stuff that I talked about last week. So you'll be able to review that if you missed the session, or in case you want to go back and just review. I had asked everyone to make this build method choice last week because it would let me fine tune this week's session to talk to you more specifically about what your goals are and to demonstrate how to accomplish them. So this just has a picture of each of the options. And then at the bottom is last Friday's session. That recording, after you talk about the same thing 4 days in a row, it gets really good. So I put the best one, which was last, and you guys definitely can share that information with anybody you know who might find it useful and wasn't able to make the training sessions. But again, everybody will get the email, so we'll all have access. So the second one is the organizations and settings that we're talking about today. And it's just a checklist of all the stuff I'm going to cover. Because it's a lot, I know people have mentioned struggling with, we're moving too fast, it's hard to take notes and that sort of thing. So don't feel like you have to write it all down. You can definitely come back, and it does have links to the step-by-step in case you don't remember how to accomplish what you're trying to do. So on the left, I'm going to keep that checklist open for us to reference, and I'm going to show you Canvas on the right. And I've got open my dashboard, which has all my courses so I can get access to them quickly. But I've also opened up my pharmacy courses that I made for these demonstrations. So I've got my sandbox here, I've got my blueprint here, and I've got my Blackboard copy and the mess that I have here. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to mention to ensure you're always working in the correct Canvas course that you mean to be working in. And the reason why I say that is because once you've got more than one that has the same layout, it's real easy to miss which course you're in. And if you copy and paste information somewhere and save it, it can be in the wrong course. And I've been doing it for years, and I do find myself having to be very careful. So once you scroll down, the name of the course is not visible any longer. And once your course menus all look the same, you could be on a page doing something and just want to make sure that it's in the course that you're planning to actually do that in. Now, people might ask why you need to be careful copying and pasting. Well, anything that's linked to this course, people only have access to this course. So you can't copy links and content from this course, such as images or videos or whatever you've got going on a page, into another course, because that would break that link and the people who are enrolled in that other course don't have access. So those links would be broken for them. So just gonna have to keep that in mind on how websites work. So basically, the second one here is how many of you will be cross-listing. So if you teach multiple sections of the same course, in Blackboard, I do believe somebody in IT would make your parent course and your child course, and they would merge those for you. Well, in Canvas, we actually do that for ourselves as the instructor. So let's say I've decided that my sandbox and my blueprint, I'm actually going to want to cross-list them. So I'm going to decide that I want my sandbox to be the parent course. And this is just for demonstration purposes. You would probably want to choose section 1, or if you're teaching section 4 and 5, maybe you choose section 4. Go into the one that you want to be the parent, and it's going to have all your content in it. And you're going to scroll down to settings. And then you're going to click on the next tab over, which is called sections. And you're going to see that my course here has one section. So I'm going to go inside of that section by clicking on the link, and I have the option to cross-list. When I click that button, it asks me to search for a course, and I'm going to use a shortcut. I'm going to come over here to my other course that I want to be the child, and I'm going to copy the number that's at the end of the URL. And then when I come back over here into my parent course and paste it, it's going to find it for me automatically. So I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to say cross-list the section. And just like that, I'm going to go back one to the course settings so you can see them both. I now have my blueprint shell and my faculty sandbox are cross-listed into one space. Now, the problem is that my blueprint and my content here is not accessible because I made it the child course. So you always want to make sure you are making the parent the course that you want to build with the content, and then the child courses are going to not be where you put your content. But since this is just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to go back into my sandbox section, and I'm going to decross list. I'm going to undo what I did. And now I am back to having a sandbox and having my blueprint separate. So you can do this. It's going to put all your students in one space. And of course, there are step-by-step directions in a video if you are, several weeks away from doing this process. However, if you're teaching for summer, you're going to want to do that fairly soon before you start building. Any questions about cross-listing? Okay, so the next part I have is, what should you do before you get started building? Well, if you have decided to use your Blackboard and you're going to be doing some stuff to it, the Blackboard copy, I recommend going to settings and going to export course content and choosing a create export. And I say to do this first just as for safekeeping. It will make a backup of exactly what the course looks like before you get started working. So if you delete something that then, a couple days later you think, wait, maybe I could have used that, and you want to get it back, this would be able to be a package we can restore into another empty sandbox, and you can get all your stuff back. Because it's saved here for 30 days, you probably don't need to download it, but you also could download it and save the package on your computer as well, or put it in OneDrive.
Is that in a zip file, or is it something you can view, or is it in a format that only could be imported and looked at?
The second, it's only in a format that you can import back into Canvas, and then it would make the course again, and then you could look at it. So it's not very useful on its own, but it is valuable as safekeeping for being able to get access back to things you might delete. So it takes a minute, but then once it's done, you then have this link, and it works just like any other download. It just asks you what you want to do with it, open it or save it. And I could open it, but it won't do anything. It would just be, it doesn't work. And you can tell it's an IMSCC file. I don't have anything on my computer that would know what to do with it. So I'm going to cancel this. So that's the first step. I just recommend making a backup before you get started. Again, once you delete stuff, it's difficult to recover. And if you're just not sure and you might want to have stuff, at a later date, just keep it. Okay, so the next part I have is let's go ahead and talk about wanting to grab our content so we can get to work. So I first would like to say everybody who's going to use a sandbox, your academic course in the fall, you already have summer right now, but in the fall, it's going to have this blueprint information, and you might want to copy this stuff into your sandbox so that you can have a feel for what your course is really going to be like when you get that academic space. Because it's empty, I'm actually going to use the button over here that says Import from Commons. And I have shared the summer 2021 blueprint, which I wouldn't expect it to change dramatically once fall 2021 is released. But I will say we have created it in a way that we can update without changing the 2021. So at the end or in the middle of the summer, people's feedback, somebody has a good idea, we can make those changes and we can roll that one out for fall 2021. And everybody will be included on being able to understand what those changes might have been. So I wouldn't worry about it at this time, but that is why it's called the summer 2021 blueprint, just in case we get some feedback that there needs to be changes moving forward. So if you come in here and you go to search, you can search by the name UIW Summer 2021 Blueprint to pull it up. And I've shared it with just our institution. So being logged into Canvas is what's going to let you see it. I'm going to select the link, and then over here, this blue button right under the bird icon is going to be import and download. And I'm going to get all my courses that I could choose from. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to find pharmacy. And I want to put it in my faculty sandbox. So I'm going to check that one. And I'm going to say import into course. And it's doing what it does, and it's going to show you progress. It successfully started. It may take a little while. It's all good. I'm going to go back into my course, and I will show you. It's pretty fast. That now you'll see I have an exact replica in my sandbox of what the academic courses look like when they were created. So now I don't have to be worrying about that. So I'm going to close the middle one, and we don't really need to look at it anymore. And we're just going to work between the sandbox with these components and the Blackboard course. So this is my Blackboard copy. Again, we talked about last week how much of a mess it is, and there's some extra stuff that I probably don't want. So from my sandbox, I'm going to come into settings, and I'm going to say import course content, and I'm going to choose to copy a Canvas course. I'm going to find my Blackboard copy. I'm going to choose select specific and say import. And it's going to pop up fairly instantaneously to have select content. And this is where I can start choosing what I want to pull over and work on. So I'm going to take the first two. And then I'm going to go through my modules, and I'm probably going to skip quite a bit of them because, again, they don't have a lot of information that you're going to want to reuse. So let's say, for example, I'm going to take my introduction. I'm going to take my instructor info, my lectures, quizzes, my exams. And I'm basically just going down and selecting all of the things that I want to keep and rework as I move forward. So a lot of this stuff, the plagiarism checker, creating announcements, these are all tutorial type items that were in Blackboard that moved into Canvas, and I actually don't want them. So I'm going to take those. And for right now, I'm going to stop with just that selection because I don't need everything today. And I'm just going to say select content. And then when I'm ready to go back and keep working, I can do that process again, and I can move on to the items that come after for assignments, for the pages, etc. You do not have to do it all in one sitting. You can do it as many times as you like. So that's running, and then once it's finished, it's going to actually give me an option to see if I have errors. So this completed green, that's actually a great sign. That means there's no errors and it's perfect. So if you get this, you know that everything copied exactly as it should. Otherwise, you might get an orange color and it will say 3 errors. And then you open that up and it will tell you there's a missing link. Maybe something you had linked on the internet is no longer available and it's telling you it's broken. Maybe you had an image on that page and the image file is no longer available, so the image isn't displaying. So it kind of gives you some heads up on what you could possibly have not working properly. So that is going to be how we can get stuff from the Commons and select specific content to import into our sandbox or our academic course shell. You guys have any questions or want me to clarify any of the stuff we've talked about so far?
Blackboard has a functionality where you can download from Blackboard all the course material. So it puts it in a zip file that then you can actually see the files. Would it be easier just to download and then pick and choose what you want that way, starting with a fresher?
That is a great question. So I'm going to click on this select content and I'm going to show you what you're talking about in Canvas is called files. So this course has 88 files in its file structure, which is the same concept of the Blackboard files that you could download. And this is talking about your Word documents, your PDFs, your image files, any of that back-end stuff that we're also going to talk about in more detail next. Absolutely, you can go and get that stuff. But what this copy is doing, it's actually, you're coming in here to get the features that are in Canvas specifically. I can't download a Canvas module already built. I can only, it's only in Canvas. I can't download a Canvas quiz and look at it on a document. It doesn't work that way. So if I don't want to have to rebuild stuff from scratch, I'm going to want to copy these assignments, these quizzes, these question banks, the discussion boards, and the pages of information, because that's all of the website features that are built in Blackboard that transferred over to Canvas, and they don't open up on your computer from a download, only the files area. So that's sort of a two sides of the coin. They're both super important, but they do different things. So right here, I'm actually going to leave, you know, what I'll do is let me get some of my files. So I'm going to select course files, the first 2, and the embedded ones. And I'm going to select this SMCS just because these all seem like they would pertain to the course, but I know that these template files do not, and so they can be trashed and I don't need them. So I'm going to say select content. And now that's going to copy over my files. So we will see pretty quickly. I don't expect there to be any errors. Your errors typically come in your assignments, quizzes, and pages. And that's just because of the way the web works. Those are the areas that are going to have links that get broken over time as things just aren't available anymore. So all this is working really well. Let's take a look at our files, and you'll see that organizing your course files and naming all your documents sustainably is the next topic that I want to cover. So I mentioned how we're talking about there are web components in Canvas that you can't download and open on your computer. You have to use the system like a quiz or an assignment. But there's also files that you want to put in your course. Lots of files typically. You're going to have your syllabus, you're going to have your content, you're going to have pictures of yourself. All of the stuff that you want to link for students to look at needs to be uploaded to the file structure to build out the course. It's easiest if you come into this space and work here and upload your stuff and then go build your course. You can upload things as you're building out in the build spaces, but it's a little bit more challenging to keep your things as organized as if you were working here. So I'm just going to show you a couple tips. I'm going to create a folder and I'm going to call it Blackboard Copy. And I'm going to select everything that I have in this space except that folder and except my UIW template materials, because that's the blueprint that I copied in. I don't want to mess with that. And I'm going to put all of this stuff, I'm going to use the move button and I'm going to put it inside of my Blackboard Copy folder. And now I just have cleared my workspace. And I still have all my stuff and none of my links have been broken by doing that, which is the beauty, but I've moved them out of the way so I can start fresh. And then I'm going to say, maybe I want to do all of my PowerPoints I'm going to put in this folder. Well, now I can come over here and search for files and I can say PPT and I can pull up every single PowerPoint file that is in my course. And I can go through and I can look at them and I can say, you know what do I have going on? I'm going to open it a little bit wider so I can see a little better. I'm going to say, okay, I've got cough, cold, allergy, learning objectives. And then I've got the students. Okay, I've got homework oral cases 1 and oral cases PPTX. These are the exact same file size. So I'm modeling as though I'm the instructor and I'm not, but I can tell probably most likely this is a second upload of the same item. And the one is just because it can't have the same name. So I can delete one of these. So I'm going to select this one. And I'm going to come up here. Well, I have two choices. I can select it. I can use the menu here to download. I don't want to do that. I actually want to throw it away. I'm going to say okay, and it's going to get rid of it. It tells me I was successful. And then you're noticing right now one of the quirks. It's still there. You're thinking I did something wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes web browsers act odd, and I'm going to refresh the page, come back in here, and oops, PowerPoints, PPT, and now it is gone. So if it looks like it didn't work, just refresh and it should take care of it. So this one here, I've got a second duplicate. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to refresh my page. And now it's gone. And so basically you can easily go through and just delete all the stuff that's old or you don't want it. Now let's say I am done with that. Now I'm going to look at naming conventions. One of the best things about Canvas, and it takes a little bit of retraining yourself, is using sustainable names. And what I mean by a sustainable name is a name that doesn't have a term, a date, or any sort of numbers associated with it. Now on your computer, on your desktop, you can use folders and file names that have dates and indicators all day long to keep yourself organized. It makes absolutely total sense that you would do that. But when you're uploading files to Canvas and they have those same identifiers, you're actually putting a date stamp expiration on that material, because next year when you roll forward and you have an updated version, you'll update the new document in here with a new date, and then you have to go find it in your course and you have to rebuild your course because it will break all of the links and it just holds on to that old information. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's say this document right here, it's a PowerPoint. I'm going to download it. And I'm going to say, I'm going to save it. It's going to save to my downloads area. And then I'm going to open that up. Just 1 second. And just show you right here. I opened my downloads folder. It's right here at the top. I'm going to open up this PowerPoint and pretend to make a bunch of changes. And I'm not really going to, obviously, but once I've done my changes, just a second. I can come over here and I can upload with this identifier and it would be okay because it's the exact same as last year. But let's say I wanted to rename it with the 21, right? Because it becomes, you know, maybe it's on the 4th, the day of class is the 4th of 2021. That means I would have to upload it and then go create a new link. However, if I name it sustainably and I just call it what it is, now I'm going to upload this. I'm going to drag and drop it over here. Oops, I did not want to do that. It is not liking me to doing this. Okay, I'm not sure why, but hold on, my browser's being a little unusual. I'm gonna.
You might want to take off the F20 at the beginning.
My browser's taken away my ability to upload into Canvas. My buttons are all gone, so give me just 1 second. I need these buttons to be able to do anything. So I'm not really sure where they had decided to go on my search, but here, let's do PPT. Let's take all my PowerPoints and let's move them into my PowerPoint folder so it will let me get my work done. Move. And now I have my button. There we go. So now I'm going to come back to my downloads. I'm going to select this and we'll just ignore the fact that it has F20. Let's pretend that that doesn't exist. We're going to say open. It's going to upload. And as long as I upload the exact same name every time I want to make a change, Canvas is so smart, it's going to ask me if I want to replace it. And when it asks me to replace something with the exact same name, it updates the links throughout the entire course in one spot. So once you've built your whole course with all of your files named without dates and times and numbers, you never have to go back and fix your pages or your modules or your announcements or all of the other places you've put these links. You just come back here to the files area and replace the file with a new updated version. And of course, inside your syllabus, it can say summer 2021 as much as you want, as long as the file name leaves summer 2021 out of the equation. Okay, so that's really, some of the best things you can do is creating your folders, moving your stuff around. You can do this for every file type. So I can have all my Word docs, I can find them, I can move them into their own folders. You can create module 1 folder and put all your stuff for module 1 in that folder. Really, this space, you're going to hide it from your students, and it's going to be your area to do what you want to do to keep yourself organized. So once you've got the actual files you plan to use in this space, you're going to want to make sure that you've got them set for what you want them to do. So on the publish buttons, there's more options if you click them. Let's say you've got quiz keys you release after the quiz takes place. Click the student availability and choose what day you want those to release. If the quiz is Friday mornings, then you can say, I want to release this Friday afternoon, 1 p.m. And that file will be linked in your course, but when students click it, they will say it's not available yet. And they can't actually see it until the date and time that you have set. You can also have the unpublished button. Let's just say you've got quiz keys that you want to keep the record of the correct answers, or maybe you've got co-teaching documents. You share some information with your colleagues. You never want students to be able to see it. Having it be unpublished and saying update, no one will be able to see it, even if it's accidentally linked in a place students have access. So it's just sort of a security measure. And then, of course, I'm going to publish. You've got options to download and share things to the comments here. Outside of your search, you've got all of your other buttons. So when you select it, your menu pops up. You can manage the access, which is exactly what we were doing when we clicked this button over here. Canvas always gives you 2 ways or 3 or more to do the exact same thing in different places. So
So tell me about the commons again.
the commons, Canvas is an open community-based system. They share amongst everything. So if you build a course and you really want to share it with other people, you can push it to the commons and people have access to go get your course. Let's say you've made a module and 3 other people are using that module to also teach their students. They don't have to build the module. You can share the module to the commons and they could go get it. So it basically is just a repository of where you can go get stuff.
Can people off campus get it?
You choose. It's basically like YouTube. You know how you can make a YouTube video public or you can make it private?
Not really.
It's okay. Everything has a choice. You can make it completely just, you can see it. You can make it where people in UIW can see it, and you can make it public so the whole world can see it. So levels. The commons is really good for if you maybe want something that's already formatted, might not have anything to do with the actual information. But let's just say I want a page that's already set up for me, or I want a quiz that's already set up for me and I just want to edit. You just go browse the commons and it's a link. It's right here on the global navigation. And it pops up just like Google does. And you can search and basically look through and find whatever it is you're looking for. People share videos, they share modules, they share entire courses. Any of this stuff that you can come in here and come get. This is just a page and I'm going to click on it. And this is what it looks like. It's got research methods and the Stanford Prison Study information. And I can say, I want this, and I can import and put it in any of my courses. Probably not something everybody's going to use all the time, but it definitely has come up. A lot of departments are looking for ways to build things and share it with other people. Especially the library. The library would like a way to make something that everybody who needs that library resource can get a hold of it. And this is one option. All the stuff I've shared, I just lock it for our institution. I feel like I don't know well enough what's public or not. So I just keep it all private just to be safe.
Does it actually import the data and everything, the MP4, whatever it is, or does it import a link such that if the instructor then removes it, you lose it?
No, it gives you everything associated with that item, and it's now in your course. It's no longer connected, so it's yours to do whatever you want with. Yes, so the way connections work is Blueprint. There's a Blueprint feature where, let's say, for example, I went into the summer 2021 Blueprint. And I'm not sure you can see it, but there's a blue bar on the right-hand side of my screen. I could do anything I want in this course as the admin. I could add a new video, I could put a new paragraph, and then I can come over here and I can push it to all of the associations that it has connected to it. All of these courses are connected to this Blueprint. I would never do that. That's not the intention of what it was made for, but that is the functionality of what it can do. So there is a way that that works, but not in the case of the Commons. Okay, so I'm gonna hop back into my course, and we basically talked about the file structure, and talking about creating folders, renaming files, moving them, deleting them, uploading them, and then setting file restrictions. It's really all there is to it. Again, like I said, when you're somewhere else working in your course, you can actually come in and say, like, for example, I can click the plus. I can say I want to add a new page. I'm going to say I want to create one because I want it to be new. And I'm going to call it an example so I can go back and delete it later. I'm going to say add the item. And it popped up right at the end. And when this is the topic for next week, but just to give you the basics, I can come and I can insert an actual document and upload that document right now as I'm working in this space. So you don't have to be in files to accomplish the same task. Like I said, Canvas has 2, 3, or more ways to do the same thing. Just sort of depends on your workflow and what you prefer. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of this and I'd like to just take a minute to talk about large files such as video and narrated PowerPoints. So when I'm in my files section back here, I have this little bar that will tell me how much space I'm using of my 2 gig allotment. If I start uploading a lot of large, maybe narrated PowerPoints or videos back here, one, they're going to be kind of difficult for students just to watch the video because it's not a video player and it doesn't handle it well, but it's also going to eat up all of your space, and then you're going to start getting an error message saying you can't add anything additional to your course. So we definitely want to be proactive in understanding our options for where do we put this stuff that takes up so much space. You've got 3 solid options for full length video, and that's 15, 30, an hour long videos. You can put them in OneDrive and have a link. It's not the best, but it does work. And then you've got 2 better options, Stream or Echo 360. Both of those are going to close caption your videos for you. You might have to edit a little bit if you're using unusual terminology. The computer can't, figure out everything by itself, but that does do most of the work for you. Echo 360 for health professions, you guys use it heavily at pharmacy, but there is trainings coming up soon to get some more information out there about not just using it for your lecture capture. You can also do it for on the fly answering questions, or maybe you've got some video clips and you just need a place to host them and link them to your course. Echo 360 can handle all of that. And then this last one here is Canvas Studio. And Canvas Studio is accessed right here, almost towards the bottom, right above our help. And I'm going to right click and open it in a new tab so I can easily get back to where I was. And I'm going to open Studio and you'll see I have added a sample video. It takes just a second to load. Of my dog snoring. And so I just came over here. I said I wanted to add, I found the video off my computer and I put it up here. You can also do YouTube here, but you don't need to. You can put YouTube links anywhere in your course. We'll talk about that next week. It's super easy. But so now this video, I'm able to go into my course and I can add it to a page or a module, and it's being held in Studio. And why is this a good example? It's only 7 seconds long, like really, it's tiny, doesn't take up much space. This is best for 5 to 10 minutes tops. So you get the same question from several students, maybe you're getting a bunch of emails, you just want to do a quick recording, explain it to them, put it in the announcements. This is a great tool. You can come straight in, you can click record and use your webcam right here and have it all done in one spot. So nice feature, and pretty straightforward for everything. Of course, if you have questions about any of these links in the online resource are going to take you to getting started information for step-by-step instructions. I'm going to close Studio, and I want to talk briefly about your pages.
A question, Melissa.
Yes.
If you co-teach, that 2.1 gigs is for all instructors combined or each instructor?
It's for the course. It's not per person. So you had 10 people in one course, it's still going to be 2 gigs for that one course. So your pages. I came over here and I clicked pages. And now I'm on the home page. That's the front page. It's the way Canvas works is that any page set as a front page can be also set as the home. So if you don't have a front page, you can't set a page as a home. And when you set the front page, the pages link also shows this. Just a little quirk. And then you want to click view all to see your full list. So once you've copied over the parts you wanted from Blackboard, you're going to want to go through and take a look at these closely. You know, do they look how you want them to? Are there some you want to delete? Are there some that maybe they need work? One of the best things you can do is unpublish all of them and go through, and then as you fix each page and you get it ready for your students, just consider the publish button as sort of your checklist. You know it's ready once you've got that green mark. So when you look at these pages, this came with the blueprint. It's the formatted page that was ready for you. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you, I also have some people teaching, right? So these people are going to maybe want to use the About Your Instructor page and their information on these other pages and sort of maybe merge it all into one page. It's really up to you what you decide that you want to do. And we'll talk about it next week, how to edit and build all of that content for the students. But really this week is more about just cleaning up what you plan to do. So for example, if you decide every instructor is going to have their own introduction page, then these 4 pages you can leave the way they are and you would edit each one. But if you would rather have all 4 people talked about on one About Your Instructor page, I would simply open each one in a new tab. I'm just right clicking and I open them all across here. And then I would come and I would take this one and I would say, I'm going to select it all. I'm going to Control C, come over here. I'm going to edit. And maybe I bring it to the bottom of this page, press enter a couple of times and paste it. And then I'm going to come over here and get the next one. And I'm going to copy it and come back. Press enter a couple of times and paste it. And then let's pretend I did it for all. I'm going to press save. Now I can come in here and I can delete the page I no longer need, with the basic goal being that you've got as few pages on your list here as you're really going to use. Just cleaning it up, getting organized, and deciding how you're going to, group your information. I'll give you another example. Coming from Blackboard, the informations that were in the items, it's very chunked out. It's too chunked out. Really, this is all that's on the entire page. Rather than having a collection of information or maybe some context to go with this, Blackboard didn't really have that creative capacity. All it did was add the item. So it's a little bit of a different transition. Okay, so that's talking about pages. Again, you can rename them. I highly recommend you come in and you rename everything that you want with the final names, because once you start renaming stuff, links might break. And I say might because sometimes you're lucky enough that it works and most of the time it does not. So once you've got parts of your course built out other places, the linking and the changing of names is going to be a conflict. So you want to avoid it as best you can. Just decide what you want them to be named up front. Any questions on pages? Nope. Okay. So the
Hi,
last,
Melissa. Sorry, I do have. So just so I can get my mind. So files are just documents that you use. Pages are those little pieces of chunks of information in your course. And then the students don't see the pages, but the modules, if you put things in modules, or can students see your pages?
yes, students can see your pages if you have the pages link showing. So
Okay,
the next thing we're going to talk about is the settings and how you control these questions. So
okay,
let me show you first. When I come over to my settings and I go to the navigation tab at the top, I get to choose what my navigation looks like. What's at the top in this area is going to be visible to my students. What's at the bottom is not. And it just tells you to drag to hide it. So let's
Okay.
say, for example, I don't want students to use Studio. I don't want them to use my media. They're not going to worry about the library's link because we're going to have that added to Canvas. Don't need any of this stuff. I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to get rid of it. Don't need any of this. I've decided I'm not going to show students my pages because I'm going to use my modules just like you had asked. So that's how I would do it. Now they can't see their pages here, but they will see the pages you put inside a module. I usually keep my announcements. I have my assignments, my discussions, grades, people. This is all good. I want to get rid of files. I want to get rid of my quizzes because they will see the quizzes in my assignments, so I don't have to worry. They will still have access. And I'm going to have my syllabus and my course eval. So that's really what I'm going for. Very simple and straightforward. And then I'm going to click save. And so that's really how we kind of control. And then of course, modules are empty boxes. When I add a module and I call it an example, it's going to add this module. It's going to jump to the bottom because that's where it puts new stuff you add. I'm just going to come right over here and I'm going to say move the module to the top of the page. And it will do that for me. So now I'm up here. It's just an empty box. There's nothing inside of it. And then the plus button lets me put anything I want to show my students, whether I want it to be an assignment, a quiz, a file, a page. What you need to think of for pages versus files, a page is a website. It is everything you're seeing right here is a web page. I have put this together and you get to do the exact same thing in your Canvas course on what they call a page. We'll talk about that next week for editing and building our content, but it's really open-ended. You can have images and videos and links. Anything about your topic that you're talking about can be on a page. And if it's a lot of stuff, then maybe you want to do 2 or 3 pages, but it really lets you kind of get to the point and put all of the resources that they need to be using. A page for pre-work for class, it's a great way to use a page. Instead of having a module with, 10 different pre-work, pieces of material listed in it, you just send them to one page and it's all on that page. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here and I'm actually going to cancel this and go back to settings. So talking about using course settings, there is a lot here. I'm going to skip course details as number 1. That's this one right here. And I'm going to show you the easier ones first, and then we'll wrap up with the more complex. So sections is what we talked about where you would come to handle your cross-listing. So very straightforward. That's all you do here. Banner will have your students enrolled in the section they belong to. And when they're cross-listed, they will stay in their proper section. So you'll always be able to see, 20 students here in section 1, 20 students in section 2, etc.
I have another question. I'm sorry, Melissa, just because I'm trying to understand. So in Blackboard, we'll have for each semester, like if I teach a course, if I taught a course fall of last year, and I'm teaching a course of fall of this year, both those courses are there. In Canvas, does it kind of just overwrite and just have one course for each year, or you have separate courses for each year?
You have separate courses for each year. It's going to work the exact same way as Blackboard. We just don't have the history in Canvas. So all you're gonna have is your copy from Blackboard from
Okay,
fall.
so now build.
Yeah, spring, summer, or fall Blackboard's copied, and then you would build from that.
Okay,
You'll only have the current courses until, of course, next year, then you'll have this year's and next year's.
I see. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the third setting here was the navigation I talked about and how to change your course menu. So that's you're under control, and the blueprint does come with the recommended, which is what I put together right here. Then you've got apps. So external apps are going to be optional things you can integrate into your Canvas. Typically they require some sort of subscription, but I like to come here and show everybody this tiny little icon right here. It looks unassuming, but it's really important. Click that icon and it will take you to the website that lets you look at the details of all the apps. And you can literally like choose, oh, I'm interested in Code Lab, and you can click on that and read all about it. So all of these details are over here in the App Center website and not in the tab in Canvas. So that's just again, a tiny little link to be able to get to it. The fifth tab is feature options. So like I said, Canvas is open. They take feedback from their community. I wouldn't say that they take all the feedback, or that would be wonderful, but they do take feedback from the community. And when they do something new, they put the feature options in this section and allow you to either use them or not for a period of similar to beta testing. So if you're interested, you can come over and take a look at what the feature options are for right now. You can turn them on to see if you like them. Some of these will become built-in features in the future. Some of them will go away. It just, it's just part of Canvas's development process and how they roll out new stuff. Now we're going to jump back to the actual course details and talk really briefly about this. I usually like to have extra time for questions, but we're running short and I don't want you guys to stay if you have to go. But I will stick around if you have questions, so don't feel rushed. So you will get to choose the image that you add that shows up on the dashboard tile. So that's where you would do that here. And it's very simple. You can choose an upload, or you can pick from the searchable database of ready to go images that are already there. You can edit your name. You will be able to change participation. So when I say I want to do participation for the course, I can change the start and end dates. So the term starts on May 10th. You want to give students access to your course on May 7th. You would be able to come here and put May 7th and whatever time you want the course to open up. So you control that part and you can give them early access. The term, let's say summer term ends, in July or early August, but you want to give them an extra week. Again, you can do the end date to be later. And then of course you've got these check boxes that let you decide if I'm going to restrict them from viewing the course before the start date. So you just reading the options and deciding how you want to control what your course does. We're going to scroll down. It's going to come with 2 gigs. That's what we talked about. If you have a large course, this may be something you're interested in. Filtering SpeedGrader by student group. That can be just one management strategy. You had some options in Blackboard Gradebook to be able to look at certain parts. Same concept. This is where you're going to add your grading scheme, and that is your letter grades. So you can, as the School of Pharmacy as a whole, have a grading scheme that's set at the sub-account level, and everybody would have access to that. You could select another, and then it would be listed here. But all you have is the UIW scheme and no other choices until, obviously you'd have to decide what you wanted, and then that would be built. But this is where you do that. You can change the licensing, but I would just leave it private as copyrighted. You can change your course visibility. So this is not something you do for your academic courses, but if you had a non-academic course that you wanted, you could make it open to the public, that it would just be on the web, or just UIW logins could access your course. And then you've got setting the type of course you're teaching, if you are doing on campus, online, or blended. And then, of course, this lovely little link at the bottom that, again, is seemingly unimportant, but actually quite powerful. So there's going to be several choices. You are going to be able to, if you're doing a non-academic course, you could let students self-enroll with a secret URL. You can show recent announcements on your homepage. So above everything else, your announcements would pop up there, and you can add up to 15. I'm going to actually take that off and not have that. Let students attach files to discussions. They do have a file storage limit per student. So files they attach to discussion boards, files they upload on assignments, files they upload in a quiz will go towards that quota. I say that with just a note. If you're gonna have students turn in PowerPoints or videos, please have them put them in their OneDrive and turn in the link, and they can just create a shared link and give you the link to be able to view that, because OneDrive has tons of space and Canvas does not. Then we've got let them create their own discussion topics depending on how you're running your class. Let them edit or delete their own discussion topics. I typically don't necessarily want to go with the editing or deleting in an academic course, because I feel like the academic record is kind of important. Again, up to you, and your students best. Let students organize their own groups, hide totals in the grade summary. So if you don't want them to see what their final grades are along the way, you can come here and click the hide totals. You also might want to hide grade distribution graphs. So when students finish a quiz, for example, they go into the grade link, they see the quiz that they took, and then they can see more info, and they can see what the grade distribution for the whole class was. So they kind of get a feel for how other people are doing, and you may not want them to have that information. And then, of course, disable comments on announcements. If you don't want their feedback when you have something to tell them, turn it off. Again, only teachers by default can create pages, but pages are also the Canvas wiki option. So if you do want students and everyone in the course to be able to work together on creating a page, you have that control and can do that. I would just leave only teachers as the default though, because you can toggle that option in a page you're creating rather than applying it to your whole course. And then of course, this red button here, update, that basically means save. Poorly worded, but if you don't click that, everything you've done here does not actually get saved. So make sure you do that. And that about sums it up. So we're right on time. I'm gonna stop the recording, but stick around to answer any questions that you guys